F4R TV, you know who I am by now, and today's subject matter is not actually about my Clio. In the end credits of the last video, you probably noticed that this one arrived. The sacrificial lamb. This is a parts car, but not all of it, because I will be returning this back to a usable car, but I am building another car for one of my friends, and here it is. This is my friend Jamie's Iceberg Silver 172. This is quite a significant car because it's one of the low numbers released with factory sat nav, and it is his pride and joy. It's been off the road for quite a while because of something that went on in the background, no fault of his own. It didn't look like this when it arrived to me a few days ago. I've loosely fitted a front end on it, but this car is in a sorry state. It's nowhere near the way it went to the place where it's supposed to be repaired due to Jamie having a bit of an off and had a front end collision, and it went somewhere to go and have the front end damage repaired, and he was having a brand new head rebuilt, and that should have been the end of it, but that wasn't. And I'm not going to be naming and shaming because I've got in contact with the people that this went to in the first place, and I've got a duty of care to give them the benefit of trying to sort this and resolve this issue out in the background. As I said, this is my friend Jamie's car. This isn't just a customer. I used to look after this car for Jamie a while ago before it went and had this situation happen to him, and I'm pretty pissed off about it. Like, really pissed off about it. This was a very, very clean car before his little collision, but it's here to get revived, and I'm happy about that, and I'll be happy when he's happy that it's all running and working. So, back to the black car. So what do we have? Pearl Black 172. It's been off the road a number of years. Jamie actually bought this car to repair his Iceberg Silver one, but he's a busy guy and he hasn't got round to repairing it himself, so that's why it's here. I know a lot more about him than he does, so this one is what you call a sacrificial lamb, so to speak. Other YouTubers have their little names for them. I'm not going to go into that, but this one, for all intents and purposes, is going to be called Lana Del Prey, because she's prey for Jamie's car and she's prey for my car. So I needed a parts car because of the amount of bits I need. Instead of going to a breaker and buying bits and bobs, I probably would have found more and more bits that I needed for my car, and this was local and it's here. So that's job's a good one. So my car will be sorted. And for the eagle-eyed Jimmys amongst you all, probably already noticed that the front bumper of this car is now on mine, because the hole in the side of the bumper gives me anxiety. I hate that sort of stuff. There's no need for it. It doesn't have any benefit, and it makes the car look a bit tacky. So the front bumper's been removed and put onto my car already. We're back over to Jamie's car. I've been told to do a bit more yo-yo and make these videos snappy and not stand in the one spot like I've been planted. So, what's up with it? Well, he did go to the other place with full running gear, but that is missing, and that is a problem. As well as a lot of parts off this car have been pillaged from it while it was in the custody of the other place. So, they did repair the front end damage, like the legs and stuff is bent. He broke his alternator and a few other bits, but he was in there to have a head rebuilt and the engine refreshed as well, but that didn't happen, and that leaves us with the problem. We don't have an engine, we don't have an ECU. We have the UCH, which is like the body control module thing for the immobilizer and stuff. He has a key, but that's all rendered useless because the ECU's missing and his engine loom's missing. So the black car is having the engine removed, and I'll show you a step-by-step guide of how to remove an engine. You're welcome. And it will be fitted to this car, and that is my deal with Jamie. I keep the rest of that car for my car, and he gets a running car in return. So I don't have to do any body work or anything. I didn't have to put the front end on. I just did that because the car looked really sorry for itself. I will button this up and bolt everything back on properly because I feel it deserves to be in that condition when it leaves here. But whatever condition it leaves here will be better condition than how it arrived, so that's the plan. And back over to Lana, how she will be lovingly named. Voila. 172 French stallions. Probably a little bit more, maybe a bit less. Probably donkeys. It's probably donkey power. It runs not very well, but it runs. But this will be going in the silver car. So he's got some yellow hoses and some nice little dress-up bits going in. But the main thing is the power plant, the gearbox and the drive shafts, the ECU and all the gubbins to make Jamie's car work will be removed from this car and then transported over and transplanted into Jamie's car. Winning. We will try and get a running for you, so let's go. See if I got the key on me first. Nearly. Nearly again. Yeah, it's got shit fuel still in there, so. Come on, Lana, don't do this to me. Well, that was an anticlimax, wasn't it? But she did run for a few seconds. We know she runs, but she has got old stale fuel in her, so that'll be addressed and get some V-power in there and hopefully that'll help her out. She needs the injectors cleaning, so we'll whip them off and get them cleaned. All stuff like that helps when getting one of these cars running because they're quite a fussy bugger. But yeah, stay tuned and you'll see how we get on with it. She sort of runs, so we'll take that for now. We've got to do a full service on it. It probably don't help that the injectors are probably blocked up, crap fuel. The leads are probably broken down a little bit. The plugs could be all fluffed up, but all these will get changed and hopefully should be a winner. Right, first things first, fuse box. We already know Jamie's loom's missing, so we need to look at what's going on in the fuse box. His fuses are there, but the fuse box is missing. So we can see that we've got a 50 in the fuse box, a 60, a 30, another 60 and another 60. So what we want to be doing is popping these off and these will stay with the car. Jamie's already got the fuses, but he hasn't got the fuse box, and the rest of the loom all plugs into this, so this needs to come out. So we'll remove the battery, it's not done up, so we'll just pull these off for starters and then we can have a good look at it. We'll have to undo this 13mm here because he'll need these looms as well. But as you can see, this is his fuse box. And over to Jamie's, you can see there's what's left of the fuse box. It's all loose, but it won't be like that for long. That's your first port of call, is getting the loom in the car, because even removing an engine with the loom in, we just move the loom out of the way. So I've now taken a picture of the fuse box for reference, and I'm going to get onto this 13mm here and separate the starter motor loom from the fuse box loom. So that can go back on there. You've got a big white plug, this just pulls apart. You've got a big grey plug, there's 2 pins either side, well, a pin either side, but there's 2 pins, and that'll separate this loom from the car. Then we can start going about taking these off. And I do believe, from memory, I'm going to need a picky tool. Well, that one's popped off, so maybe not. I'll get one just in case. Picky tool. You don't need any specialist equipment, so to speak, to repair one of these cars or do an engine transplant into one. A Halford's toolbox, the big one, that'll get you through. You need a load leveler, and well, you don't even need a load leveler, but you could do with a load leveler to make it easier when you drop the engine and gearbox out with the engine crane. I'm sure down here somewhere, from memory, it might be underneath. You get under the fuses, and then there's a tab. I can't find my straight pick tool, so I've got to make do. But basically what we want to do, these fuses attached to the interior loom, and we're trying to get that away from this box here, because this box will be going in Jamie's car. They are fiddly. Well, it is doable. And I will need to find my straight pick tool, because this one's not deep enough. So a little screwdriver will work if you haven't got a pick tool. And basically you want to be separating the fuses away from this loom box. They are fiddly, but try not to break them if you can help it. You can pull the fuse, see if you can get to the little clip. Just make sure you get the right fuse in the right position. And there's a clip there. You need to get down the back end of it and try and separate them. Like so. Then you just put your fuse back in. Voila. Don't do this with a battery plugged in, because that's dumb. You've seen us remove the battery, so just copy what I do. So then now, your loom is separated. And the rest stays with the car. Like so. Being I was in the way most of the time undoing the fuses, here's what the box looks like, and there's clips there to clip into here. Just make sure you've took a picture beforehand, and this goes to your ECU. So in this little black box, don't worry, 99% of these have snapped off. There's supposed to be a tab here that this goes to another 10mm, and that holds this in position onto the battery stroke gearbox mount tray. So we need to get a 10mm now, and we need to undo these 2 bolts here, and then your ECU's free. Right, so that's our ECU, 2 10mm. Always put them back. There you go in front. Save the heartache. So just move that out of the way. It's mega windy here, it's cold, so if that's not, that probably won't be coming through on camera, so I apologise in advance. But that's the ECU free. We do need to separate this. Should unclip, and there should be a 10mm if I remember right. We'll try and unplug the ECU. Probably going to need a screwdriver to get this top off. They can be a bit stiff. That one not so much. Then you've got like a big pull tab, so you slide that out, and then that's your ECU free. It's clipped on the side here with another 10mm, I think. Remember right. I'll figure that out in a minute. Yeah, there's a 10mm there on the side. They're probably just spinning. The joys. It's just to it's just there to clip the loom to the ECU tray or cover. Get the airbox out of the way. This one wasn't secure for some reason, so that's gone out the way. Should be a Jubilee clip. So now we've got a bit more access for the ECU now. And if I can, I'm going to just try and get it off this tray. But as I said, it is spinning. There, we got it. Right, so that's free now, but it looks like that's stuck. You got some hose clamps at the back. That's where the loom goes, so I can get that off and put that back through. But all this loom's free now, and that's where we need to be. In regards to the loom as well, there's another 10mm down here, which pops off. And that secures it to the gearbox mount, top of the gearbox. So you want to put your screw back in there as well, or your bolt. So you don't lose it. Well, that's how that secures into there. Then it's just a case of just unplugging everything. Now would probably be a good time to get your Sharpie marker and some masking tape so you can write down what stuff is. I know what they are, so because I've been through probably about 20 of these cars in the past. So yeah, if you take things off, mark them up so you know where they live. But first of all, we're going to undo coil pack. Boom. It's got a little clip on there which goes to the back of the inlet to hold it in position, but we've undone that now. You've got your throttle body, that pops off. It's got a little clip on the side which you need to undo. Probably need a little screwdriver to pry it open, but we'll come back to that. This is your air intake temperature sensor. You want to unplug that and get that out of the way. You've got 4 injector ports. You press them in, they pop off. Like so. That's them 3. Then you've got your radiator fan. That also just unclips. This one's a little bit stiff, and then there's a little recess that it sits in on top of the fan shroud, so you can get that out of the way. That's what that looks like. Then you've got down here your speed controller for your fan, because they're variable speed, so you can get that all out of the way. Over to the other side now. This is your map sensor. You got a little clip, you pull it out, or a tab, and that pulls out. You got a little tab here you pull out, so you can get the loom free. This goes onto your cam belt cover. Down behind the headlight is your charcoal canister. That just unplugs, so you get that out of the way. Then you've got your cam position sensor. This one could be a little bit tricky. Same with the map sensor. Pull the tab, pop it off. Then this can go underneath, but this will stay in position when we take the engine mount off. Here we've got a 10mm, and that holds your loom in place here. You can pull this side loom round. I may do that, but remember to put your bolt back in. You can pull it down the side of here. I wouldn't recommend it, but it can be done. Just got to push and feed like so. Then you've got this for your fuel. This is your fuel line. You can pop that off and get that out of the way. Then this whole loom should start to get out your way. You've got a knock sensor down here, which is brown, which is a little bit more tricky because it hasn't got any push fittings on there, so you need a picky tool to pry it off. I'll show you that once I get it off. I said this is a tricky little bugger, this one. Don't try and rag it off because you'll just break it. So that's that. You've got an oil pressure sensor down here, which is a squeeze, the same as this one for your fuel rail. This one again can be tricky. Not hard to get to. But what you do, you just keep at it. Easier one is for your power steering. That's your sensor for that, which is a grey plug. That pops off. We'll have another go at trying to get the oil pressure sensor off. They're never easy to get off. But again, they've got a fit in like this, which you have to press in, then they pop off. Come on, you bitch. Another one. Down the bottom, you'll have the alternator. Another picky tool moment. Pops off nice and easy. Just pry the back of the tab up. It pops off. Then it'll leave you a 13mm bolt for your power on your alternator. but we'll come back to that as well. Back onto the oil pressure sensor. I can get down there a little bit better now. And that's popped off. Then we've got over this side of the head. Let's move you around. Here, your coolant temperature sensor. That just unplugs. Remember to mark them all up. The rest of the loom goes down to the back of the starter motor. But as you can see, we're starting to break bread with it now. And we move most of the loom over to the passenger side if you're in the UK. Obviously, it'll still be the same side, but it'll be driver side for a European car, or these don't come in America, so bear that in mind. Down the bottom by the radiator hose, you'll have an oil level sensor, which is a black one, black plug. Again, you're going to need a picky tool because they're not like the injector ones where they press in. You have to pry the little clip off. Make sure you don't pull it all the way off, and that's the difference. See, these ones press in. This is your air intake temperature sensor, and this one you pry. If I can find my picky tool. Nothing's ever at hand when I want it. But yeah, you pry this little leg up and it should pop off, like so. Deep in the bowels down here, top of the gearbox is your crank sensor. And whether it's going to play ball or not, we'll let you know. This has been replaced because it's not an OEM one, but picky tool, handy. It's been wired in as well. And this one's a blue plug. I do believe I have another one, which is an original one, plug. I got a bit out of focus in the last shot. So that is what an original crank sensor is supposed to look like. Well, crank sensor plug, should I say. And that was replaced by this blue one here with this bit of loom. So that must have been faulty at some point and caused some problems, so they've soldered a new bit of loom in. So what's next, you ask? Down the back of the engine, on the gearbox, there's a speed sensor. And if you want to see how that's done, because it's very difficult to film, there's a little heat shield. It's right next to the exhaust manifold, and then there's a plug in the top of that. Just pop the plug off. If you see that, it's under that, which is the heat shield. Pop that off, pop the plug out, jobs are good. Then down the side of the gearbox in the wheel well, there is the reverse switch, and that should be a green plug, so that needs to be unplugged as well. But this battery tray and that's in the way, so I can't show you that just yet, but we're nearly there. Underneath the exhaust manifold, had a brain shit, sorry about that. There is the starter motor, and there's a black spade connector which pops off, then a 13mm nut, you undo that. And also there's a 13mm nut left to do on the alternator. It's a bit seized, so I'm just waiting for that to some WD-40 to soak in. Then hopefully we'll be able to get that off. Winning. Plus the video is a bit fuzzy. That's your crank sensor, which is bolted to the gearbox, and this is the plug which it clips into. So look for this thing. It's got two 10mm holding it in position. It's got a little clip here. You have to pry that out. Thought it'd be easier doing this way. So pop that out with your picky tool, then jobs are good in. As for the speed sensor, back of your gearbox, next to your manifold is this heat shield. It's easier to show you out of the car. You pop this heat shield off, then you've got a plug which goes into the top, so just remove the plug. You can leave this in situ, but if you ever have any speedo issues and you've got no speedometer, this is usually the culprit, and it just pops out the box. So pop the old one out, put a new one in, jobs are good in. put your heat shield back on, and it sits like that. Well, not quite like that. It sits sort of like that anyway. Winning. So when you get to this point, you move as much of the loom as possible over, it'd be a good time to start thinking about pulling the front bumper off. I mean, most of these bumpers, well, if you're lucky, you've still got the bolts in them, but they usually seize into the wing. You should have a plastic clip here which pops off, one on the opposite side, which holds the grill in place. And then you've got a couple of 10mm under the front, if you're lucky. But all three of my cars here, so Jamie's, the unnamed black one, come on, come up with a name for it, and this one, Lana, I've got no bolts in them, so literally pull. Other side. That one's being a bit tricky, but like this side, there we go, pull, and away we go. Get it out of the way. Now it's time to get the car on axle stands, because you want to be removing the radiator, draining the fluids, and getting ready to start actually stripping stuff down. Right, it's time to remove the slam panel. There's 4 bolts on it, the 13mm, and that's at the top. There should be 2 mounted into the crash bar, but this one's got them missing. So remove these. And that's why we need the squirt juice on them. And you can move this out of the way. Try not to damage your headlights or whatever. But for argument's sake, I'll put it up here a minute. Put the bolts back in so you don't lose them. We need to start draining coolant and gearbox oil and all that good stuff. We also need to get to the starter motor at the back of the engine, but this inlet manifold and all the coil pack and everything needs to move out the way. These are 10mm, so I'm going to remove the bonnet latch. Just so this isn't in the way. As I said, 2 10mm. And should slide out the back. Like so. Screws back in, so you don't lose them. Don't damage your slam panel. And you should be cooking on gas. Back of the inlet, there's a hose that goes to your brake servo. And you want to undo that and try not to stub your thumb. So you get that out of the way. You can move some more of the loom out of the way. I'll tuck this over here somewhere so it's out of the way. Like so. This has been blanked off, but there should be another hose which comes around the back and then goes into your charcoal canister. This one's been deleted, the charcoal canister, and that's still there, but they seem to have blocked it off for whatever reason, I don't know. But there's a good chance yours hasn't, so if you're wondering where that is, there's a pipe which goes to there, then it finishes here, and then another pipe clicks in there, so there's a pipe for the back and a pipe from the side. So take that into account. This is where it all starts to become a little messy, taking the power steering lines off. You've got a little bracket which goes onto the radiator. Well, onto the radiator fan, that's an 8mm. So you need to remove that. And that should free up the pipe. It's pretty self-explanatory. Half of them are broke off, but this one hasn't, so that's a win. Fiddly little bolt, it's got to come out. Seems to get tight, loose, tight, loose. Right, she's out, so put the screw back in, or the bolt. So this hose is all loose now. I say it's going to get messy because you've got to pull the pipes off. You've got a 17mm here, so you need to crack that off. That was easy. Then before we do that, you've got a bracket which holds to the block, so that's a 17mm as well. You want to pull that out first. Put the bolt back in so you know where it lives. I said everything you can to pull it out the way. I'll get that off in a minute. I've got a little oil catch tray underneath. I'm going to try and catch as much as I can. All this stuff's still on Jamie's car, so I don't know whether we'll use it or not. Or just hook his one back up, which is probably the best thing to do. Alright, so that's the one power steering hose done. Now for the other one. There we go. So we'll let that drip into our catch tray. And we'll move on to radiator hoses. So we're bottom of the radiator, we have the bottom radiator hose, which is a 10mm. So we're going to do this Jubilee clip or this Manifold clamp. And try and catch as much of it as possible. Easier said than done. It's a bit tight in here now. Well, a lot come out of that, didn't there? Oh well, less of a mess. Winning. Right, we're going to undo the heater matrix now. The two hoses on there. These are fuel pliers. Fuel clamps or whatever they're called. You don't need to do them, you can press them in, but I've got girl strength, so there's two buttons either side and you can use them to squeeze. If you get onto one properly, it's a bit of a faff. I'm just seeing if I can use them, so it'll make my life easier. It doesn't look like I can, so try and do the traditional way. And by pressing the two buttons on the side, no, it's not going to play ball, so I'm just going to undo the Manifold clamps, which is a 10mm again. Oh, it's just leaked all over my leg. Beautiful. Extension bar on. So that's your pipe work off your heater matrix off. There's another Michelor down the side here on your thermostat housing. None of these are tight, by the way. They're not tight at all. That's probably where all the coolant vanished to. I haven't pre-undone these. You're basically looking at the first time of me removing them. I mean, these two pipes here, they just basically popped off. So it wasn't very tight. But we'll make sure it's all tight on Jamie's car, that's the main thing. There's one more 10mm down here on the bottom hose, which goes to the bottom of the block, and your water pump. So it's got soaked again. Beautiful. And then just basically get this all out the way. Back to the power steering pipe work. You've got another little bracket down here on the gearbox, 17mm again, and then on the other side of the gearbox in the wheel arch, I think there's a 10 or a 12, but I'll show you that when we get there. They really wanted to keep this thing secure. And we're putting the bolt back in. You know why? If you ever want to remove your headlights so you don't damage them, or you're replacing them because they're not in the best of shape, you've got a 10mm here, a 10 under there, and a 10 in the corner down here, and then they pop off. Then you've got one of them pull with a, what's it called? Brain shit again. A picky tool, that's what you need. You need a picky tool, which is over here hiding again. You've got two plugs, one for your automatic razor and the other for your actual headlights. I pretended that one was there, so it's missing. Pick tool. Press that one in and flick that one out. This one's stiff. There we go. Like so. Cooking on gas. Next up, clutch cable. So you've got your clutch fork here, then you've got a bracket. Just pull it, pop it off, then push that through there. Now your clutch is disengaged. Undo your 8mm that's on here, or your clamp, whatever you got on there, pull that off so that's out the way. And there's all your coolant hoses. Next up is going to remove this inlet manifold. There's two 10mm at the back, one by the coil pack and one at the back of the actual plenum. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. So let's get these off. Make sure you don't lose these, or worse, drop them into the actual inlet. The ones at the back are longer. Obviously the height's different. Well, that one's the same. Sure, one of them's longer at least. No, I'm chatting shit, they're all the same size. And you can move that out the way. Pull your leads. This one's been not used for a long time, so they're a little bit stiff. So before we faff around with that, we don't want nothing going into the actual inlet. So get you some masking tape and cover your inlet holes. Stop anything dropping in. Let's have another go at these. There's one, there's two, three, stiff one at the back. Always cylinder 4. There's 4. If you're using your original fuel rail, just stick a little bit over the hole of that as well. Stop anything getting in there. We're going to try another fuel rail with injectors because I reckon these are blocked for sitting for so long. And Jamie's old one's in the car, luckily enough, and it hasn't had any fuel sat in there, so it may cure the little idling issue. Now comes the most difficult part to film. So what I tell you, you're just going to have to trust me on, and that's removing the manifold bolts. At the back, there's 8 10mm bolts. So you have to undo them to get to the starter motor. French engineering for you, it's the best. So we got our 10mm here and a ratchet. We're leaving the exhaust in situ while the manifold, we'll just move it out of the way. Jamie's one's already on his car, so they shouldn't be too tight. I'm a short arse, so I've got a little pair of steps and I'm up over the back of the engine trying to get to it, and so far so good in undoing it, but it's not the most comfortable of places to be. I could do this on my ramp, but I can emphasize the fact that most of you probably haven't got one, so I'll go down in the trenches for you to make it more better value for you, to show you that it can be done on your drive. There's only a couple of things under the car you'll have to undo. That's a dog bone mount, gearbox, which is a 13mm nut. It's a gear shifter linkage, sorry, 13mm nut. Undo that and then slide the linkage off. They're still difficult to film, but I'll do my best. As I said, this is a tricky thing to do. The rest of it's pretty easy, but you'll find a lot of people are scared to work on these cars because of their complexity. You will need to move this manifold back to get to the starter motor, as I said. Right, so all the bolts are out of the manifold now. As I said, there's 8 of them. So it does move about, but there's no flexi on here, and it's on the exhaust rubbers. So it doesn't move too far forward or back, which isn't enough to get down to the starter motor. So what we're going to do is, we'll drop the wheels off, we'll pull the drive shafts, undo the dog bone mount, which is a 16mm. I think we only have to undo the one on the front, which attaches to the gearbox. We've got a 13mm bolt which holds an earth strap to the side of the gearbox. You'll probably miss it, but I'll show you that because that's vitally important for getting your ECU to work and whatnot. Then you've got another earth strap which is in the wheel well, and that's 14mm. And you want to be making sure you got good contact on that and you get rid of that. Then we're not too far off. Oh, also the reverse switch as well, the green plug which goes in the side of the gearbox. But that's pretty much it. There's not too much, it's just a faff to do. It's very awkward. Most of it's okay until you get to like this point where it knows it wants to leave the building. I mean, you got 16mm here, you got on there if you want to leave that in situ. You can remove these here. We'll remove all of them, it's just easier. Or we can leave this top mounted and then just remove this bolt down here, which is a 16 I think, and then just pull the engine out that way. Right, so join me under the car, and we have a few things to undo under here. This is going to be fun, trying to do it one-handed. Hopefully things are nice to me. I need a 13mm, and we're going to undo the gear shift linkage, which is this one. That'll rock free in a bit, but that's undone. Then we got, I thought it was a 16, but I believe it's an 18, if I remember rightly. It looks bigger than a 16, so we'll try an 18 on it. Big bolt. Right, so that should allow your engine to start swaying about now. Don't lose that bolt, because you'll be in a whole heap of shit then. Right, up here is an earth strap which goes to the gearbox. I think that is also, no, it's a 16. So that's a 16. Luckily I've got one at hand. Sorry for the wobble. There's not too much to do under this car, so as I said, mega awkward doing things one-handed. I'll just show you it out, it'll just be easier. It's the earth strap for the gearbox. And you've got like a stability mount here, right there. And that is also maybe a 16. A 16. Winning. So your engine should, in theory, flap about a bit now. And the shift linkage, what we undone, the 13mm, just slides off like that, so that's free. You're gonna have some fun trying to join that back up because you've got to align it all in the car, ideally off the floor, so you can try and select your gears. But that's not much left under the car now. Winning. So this will be the point where you want to be draining your gearbox oil, so make sure you've got a container to catch it. This is one of them 3/8 inch square block fitments. It's a 19mm spanner or socket. And you want to be draining this, because as soon as you take the drive shafts out, it's going to go everywhere. So your wheel nuts are 19mm and your hub nuts are 32mm. Or 30mm, sorry, not 30mm. Down here is a 13mm. I've just cracked the nut. This is another part of your loom. It's a gearbox earth, and as I said before, that's vitally important that you remember to bolt this back in. And put your bolt back in place. There's your speed sensor. Now everything's out the way, you can see it, and that plug goes to it, and that's just a pop-off plug. Manifold's loose, but the engine needs to be able to rock forward first. We'll go and do this battery tray and gearbox mount. So there's 13mm to be done on there, but then there's a 18mm on here, another 13mm there, and a 13mm there. Let's get this battery tray removed. So you've got 3 13mm bolts there and 1 here. Then you've got an 18 in the middle, which separates this from the gearbox. These are going to drop through the bottom, because they always do. Don't lose anything. There's one bolt that's dropped through. Remember to sort that out when you're putting the engine back in. We've got another 13 down the back that I missed. And then you've got this 18 on here. You've got another 13 down here, if I remember right. Should have anyway. That one's not even in. So you need to separate this gearbox mount. It's easier said than done, but it always sees on. Might be worth giving it a little tap. As you can see, the engine's starting to move around a bit more now. Try not to get any wires caught. We need to definitely separate this here. There we go, like so, and that's out the way. We'll find the bolt that dropped out the bottom shortly. And there she is. Right, what you want to do now is get your trolley jack for a block of wood and support the engine on the sump, because you need to undo these 3 16mm and this 18mm here. Do these with a ratchet and not a gun, because they do tend to seize in and then just rip the threads out. This, not so much, it's not that bothered. I've never had an issue with getting one of them out. Right, so now you can rock your engine backwards and forwards, and now there's enough room for you to move your manifold out the way so you can undo the starter motor bolt, which is a 13mm. There's a spade plug as well that's got to come off, and this should conclude the loom at the back of the engine. It's fiddly to get to, but it's doable. Try not to drop the nut and lose that. That's one bit done. Always put the nut back on the starter. The difficult one now is to get the little spade plug, so I'm going to try and grip it with a pair of long nose pliers and pull it off the top of the starter motor if I can. Like so. So you should be able to pull this part of the loom free now, and that is what is on your starter motor, the spade plug and this big live here. The rest of the loom is going to go to your lambda sensors, and there's two, one at the top of the down pipe and one where the back of the cat would have been. These are your lambda sensor plugs. You reach down the bottom back of the engine bay, you'll be able to pull the first one out. And then this is the longer one, which goes under the car and will be at the back of your cat. Easy enough to do, you'll know what they are straight away. You'll have to feed these back through, so we get these all out the way. A bit tangled. And then I was on about the gearbox plug, and I'm going to show you that in a second when I locate it on here, because I've unplugged that as well. It's hard to see from where it is, but this loom should be there or thereabouts, apart from this earth here ready to pull. So that's another 13mm. So this is the gearbox reverse switch plug, and you have to squeeze it to pull it out, and that is located down there. You can see it where my finger's going on the orange sensor there. It's difficult to that badger there, that's the one you have to undo. Back of the engine bay, soak this earth here. Hopefully it'll undo, but I can guarantee it's going to snap. So it is what it is. So be mindful of that. And that, my friends, concludes how you remove the engine bay loom, the engine loom. Winning. Now it's time to undo the top of the gearbox mount. There's 3 16mm bolts, and we have to remove that because there's still a bracket holding the power steering line in place. So that has to come out. And there you go, another 13mm holding the power steering line. I will hasten this up a little bit because my battery's starting to die. Tracker ends, undo these, they're 15mm, both sides. Underneath you got your ball joint, there's two 18mm heads on them. So undo the nuts on them, they'll start to spin at the top, which are usually 19s, but you get the gist of it. And you can get the lower arm out the way, so you can get out the drive shaft. The drive shaft, you've got a 13mm at the top there, and a 13mm at the bottom on the driver's side. And on the passenger side, you've got three 13mm bolts in a triangle formation. Like so. One at the bottom, one there in the top left-hand corner, and then one in the middle. You do them, move the ball joints out the way, and then the engine's ready to pull. Once you've undone the ball joints and the track rod end, you should be able to pull your hub out the way to get to the two 13mm there that you can see. And then your drive shaft's out, and then you're on to the final run, or the final straight, should I say. Same again this side. This one's probably stuck in a little bit here. Right, hub's out the way. Time to get to these 13mm. I'm not going to show you that because that's going to be more difficult, so I'm going to have to crack them off of the ratchet first, then gun them off, and then pull the drive shafts out. Then it's ready to get this bad boy into position. I've not left myself a lot of room. I don't know if I can drag it through here. I probably can't, but I'll give it a go. And yeah, shouldn't be long until we pull the engine out. Right, so there's your drive shafts. Driver side is on your left, as it will be in the car, and your passenger side is on your right. So there's a three 13mm that have got to be removed, and there's the two 13mm, and this little collar which bolts into a position on the back of the engine to hold the drive shaft in place. So now let's get this bad boy loaded up. Engine's now sitting on the subframe ready to pull, winning. There we have it, guys, an in-depth look into how to remove a Clio 172 or 182 engine. It's very thorough, it's a very long video, but there's everything there, every bit of information you need for you to get to this position. which was the aim of the game. So engine's removed now and ready to go in Jamie's car. We've removed all the looms that we need, engine loom wise, but we will need to fit the UCH and the locks and the ECU and key barrel and everything into Jamie's car, so this will work because all that was missing on it. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to see any more projects like this or other tutorials, please let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll see if we can make it happen for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.
Globetrotter, so shocker, I keep it in the chrome locker. Don't rock up, I counter it with no offer. I don't wanna, I'm too busy, so chocker. Call me Mr. Roadblocker. I make a whole number turn to an eighth. Learn from mistakes, got the whole world on my plate. Nothing worse than my fate. Say your words get burnt on a stake. Took a turn for the cake, so we turn and we say, always had the power, open up from deep within. There's something that empowers me to draw a line under my sins. I never understood why there was such a way to live, and I'm stuck against a wall that keeps defining me as him. I'm painting never-ending canvases while I wrap them up in bandages.